Hey guys, welcome back to Human Condition. This is another video in the What Character Roles series. This video we're talking about Superman. I know I'm a little late to the party, about a month or so late, but in this video we're talking about character roles each character from Superman are, what character roles they are. In case you don't know what these are, these would be the protagonist, the deuteragonist, the main antagonist, the secondary antagonist, the trigonist, the central antagonist, the overarching antagonist, if they all have one of those. So in this series, I talk about TV shows and movies that have, and what those characters are, in my opinion, and what character roles they are, in my opinion. So spoiler alerts if you haven't seen this new Superman movie yet. The protagonist would be Superman, Clark Kent, the man, the myth, the legend himself. He'd be the protagonist. Protagonists in the films are usually people who lead the story, and they're the main focus. There can sometimes be multiple protagonists in films and shows and games and any type of story. But the protagonist would be the person who we see the story through. And that's Clark Kent for the new Superman movie. The deuteragonist, controversial opinion, but I think Krypto would be a deuteragonist because deuteragonists are the characters that we meet. How I usually determine this is that the characters we meet through the protagonist, directly through the protagonist, and their second character we usually meet. In Krypto, even though he's not a person, he's a second character we meet. And he helps drive the story a ton. Throughout the entire story, without him, Superman wouldn't go on the quest to save Krypto. So for that reason, we meet him second. I'd say Krypto is probably the deuteragonist, one of the deuteragonists. And then another deuteragonist, there's two of them, would be Lois Lane. We meet her also directly through Superman, the protagonist. So she definitely helps guide the story to save Superman. Spoiler, once he gets kidnapped and imprisoned. The trigonist would be, I think there's two trigonists in the film. Number 4 Robot that helps heal Superman, because he's not super big on the storyline, but we see him in the beginning of the Fortress of Solitude in the very end, and he seems to be the one that talks the most to Superman. And we meet him through a deuteragonist, which is Krypto. So usually we meet the trigonist through the deuteragonist. Second very important trigonist would be Jimmy Olsen. Trigonists are usually the third most important. To be fair, Jimmy Olsen is very important, but I still feel like we met Lois Lane before, and Lois Lane is probably pretty important as well. So the trigonist would be Jimmy Olsen. Meet him through Lois Lane, and he is a third person that helps lead the story. Him and Robot number 4. Then you have the main antagonist is obviously Lex Luthor, and these are the characters who are the main threat at the end, different from a central antagonist, because central antagonist appears to be, if they're not always in shows and movies, but appears to be the main antagonist, and then it's revealed that there's another bad guy behind the person. When Superman, there isn't a central antagonist because from the beginning we kind of know the bad guy is Lex Luthor. For the secondary antagonists, they'd be Ultraman, and I think the robotic evil lady was named the Engineer, if I'm not mistaken. So they'd be the secondary antagonists. This is because they're never, unlike the central antagonist, which is a secondary antagonist that we think is the main villain. From the beginning, we know Lex Luthor is the main antagonist. So the secondary antagonists are seen as villains that are we know are not the main villain. And this is potentially. So this is Ultraman and the Engineer. And this is because they fight. The overarching antagonist is usually the person who sets up the main antagonist, in my opinion, but then is never taken out. So if in Star Wars and the 4th movie, Emperor Palpatine, because he sets up Darth Vader to be the main antagonist but isn't yet defeated, he'd be a good example of overarching antagonist. For this one, there probably isn't one, but potentially the president of Baravia, because he sets up Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor kind of needs him to draw out Superman. However, potentially he might not be the main antagonist, the overarching antagonist, because he is actually defeated, spoiler alert, you haven't seen it, by Hawkgirl when she drops him to his plummet. It's brutal. So he might not, since he's technically defeated, doesn't survive at the end, but since he's not defeated by the main antagonist, potentially he could still be an overarching antagonist. So potentially the president of Bravavia is the overarching antagonist. There's no central antagonist because there's no like plot twist where we think, well, there's a plot. There's a couple plot twists when we figure out Ultraman is the genetic clone of Superman, but there's no like, we think Ultraman's the main bad guy, then plot twist, it's Lex Luthor. So there's no central antagonist, a person that we think's the main bad guy, and then turns out not to be. And there's no tertiary antagonist. So yeah, shout out to the viewer who suggested do Superman. That was a really good idea. Sorry I'm kind of late to the party. But let me know down below what you guys think. I thought it was pretty good. I feel like they made, Superman was still tough, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they made him a little more passive, which is good in this film than the previous films. And in more that he had to rely on his friends to fight Lex Luthor, potentially. And I also don't understand why Lex Luthor was just super jealous of Superman, because throughout the movie they kind of brutally roast him a lot, which is harsh, but how it happens. And Lex Luthor, you really think about it, he's like a multi-billion-dollar company. He's dating Eve Tessmacher, so he's kind of winning. So I don't, you know what I mean? So if Lex Luthor just took a moment of gratitude and just looked back and be like, dang, I'm winning right now, he wouldn't have been as jealous of Superman, you know? But I guess we wouldn't have had a movie then. But yeah, so let me know down below what you guys thought of the movie. As always, thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe if you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.